Amanda here from createyourfuture.co. So today we have Denise joining us. Hi, Denise.
Hi, Amanda. Hi, everybody.
Guys, we have an exciting success story. Okay, so this success story is about how one of Denise's clients changed around her ex-husband entirely, instantly. Okay, so now it wasn't about getting him back. It was actually about getting her alimony payments. So not only did she manifest, him actually paying on time, but she actually changed him around because it was the concept of herself and himself. So, of course, guys, when you listen to this success story, use it as a catalog to create things in your life. And as usual, we will go through afterwards and give you some tips and pointers of what you can change in your reality to make this happen. So welcome, Denise. Hello.
Thanks so much. Alrighty. So she goes to say, I have been working with Denise on manifesting a specific person. There's been lots of movement in that area, and she has also helped me to start looking at my self-concept and views surrounding relationships. I'm intending to have a success story for that area of my life soon. I never realized how negatively I viewed myself, and I'm so happy that I'm changing my self-concept because I deserve to live a rich and full life. But in the meantime, I brought up another matter that had been weighing on my mind. My ex-husband is, but no longer going to be, late on his alimony payments. This past month, it was the latest he has ever been. He was the latest he has ever been on making payments. I contemplated hiring an attorney or having a legal letter sent, but I didn't want to aggravate the situation. Additionally, the legal fees would have cost more than the alimony payments themselves. I just wanted the money in peace. Denise helped me to set an intention for him to make the payments and also identify the beliefs I had around why he was not making the payments on time, such as he's controlling and selfish. I had no desire to revise him or remake my ex-husband. I call him my unconscious creation because I was asleep and unaware of what I created in that relationship. Therefore, Denise helped me to work with this limiting belief that he always makes his alimony payments early because he set up auto pay and it's easier for him and it's in his best interest. I repeated the affirmation and visualized the amount in my bank account. I even got the support of my friends who manifest because I also have been intending that I am surrounded by friends that manifest. Today, the payment showed up in the bank account. I'm going to continue to intend that his alimony payments are always paid early. Thank you, Denise. I am really grateful to the whole community at Create Your Future for helping me to find my magic again. I love you all.
Oh, that is so amazing. I love that.
Yeah, it was great. Right away, the next day, boom, there it was. And we talked about it. I said, well, like she said in the email, but what are the beliefs you have about him? Why isn't he paying on time? He's controlling, he's manipulative, he's selfish. So I said, well, do you want to change that? Because we can work on that. Or is it just easier to find something path of least resistance, something to get you what you want quicker? And so
Exactly. And you know what I really like about this, because everyone, as you pushed out, you guys actually came up with a solution, basically that he set up auto pay and it's easier for him. And, I think that was also really, really good as well. You can either say, look, I don't care how it's going to happen, but it's going to happen, or you can actually create the solution. It's up to you about how detailed you actually want to create this. There's no right or wrong way of doing this, just knowing that your thoughts create your reality. What you focus on expands. Right. But yeah, and changing, the reason why he was late,
Yeah. And I have a little example of this from years ago when I used to commute. I had like a 40-minute commute from my home to my work, and people would fly by, and I go 80 miles per hour. I'm not a slow driver by any means. I'm with the flow of traffic, but there would always be these crazy drivers every morning, crazy drivers. And I know I created that saying, crazy drivers. And I realized I was so aggravated and annoyed with them that just going from crazy drivers right to everybody is driving peacefully and safe and with the flow of traffic was a jump and a stretch. So I worked with it. And instead, I just started telling myself, when I would first see somebody zoom by or riding my butt, I would say, they must be in a hurry. I hope they get there safe. And just a couple of days of that, then I was able to go from there without being so irritated and frustrated into everybody just drives with the flow of traffic and it's easy and everybody's driving safe. And I stopped seeing all the crazy drivers.
Exactly. I mean, that is so amazing. It's so amazing.
Yeah.
I think it's so great. It's so important, to watch those mental conversations that we have in our head, about other people and the assumptions that we make for why something isn't happening. I think that's so incredibly important. Yeah, I remember I've mentioned this before, so we can relate this to, basically a relationship. I remember the first day that, I went out with Andrew, he said he was interested in a relationship at some point. And then somehow between that day and like a year later, I completely twisted that into he's not interested. Right? And then all of a sudden he was saying that too. Well, and then I thought back, I'm like, well, that's strange. When he first met me, this wasn't what he was saying. But we do that to ourselves through our assumptions, right? We have an assumption, we make the assumption. So when I first started dating, my assumption was obviously he was dating and wanting a relationship, or else he wouldn't date me. Like, he would just stay home, right? Like, why bother getting up and dressing up and going out, right? You know what I'm saying? And then all of a sudden, through that, it twisted into, no, not interested, wants to live alone, an old man, like with nobody until for the rest of his life. And then that showed up. And like, it was so, but we have to give people that space to change, right? And then I changed him back, obviously, because I live here. I live with him. We live together. So we've got to watch our conversations. Like even just today, I'm moving, and I'm obviously it's a little bit of a time when there's a lot going on, and I just found myself having this complete negative conversation in my head, so much to the point where I was actually upset. By the way, none of this has happened yet. I'm completely upset. Okay? I'm actually mad. I'm having this angry conversation in my head with this person about this situation, and I'm nearly on the floor, like just melting, and I'm like, wow, I'm like, and I caught myself and I'm like, I don't feel good. I'm like, oh my goodness. I'm like, I'm upset. I'm upset at something that hasn't happened yet. I'm like, I'm having this, we've got to watch those inner conversations so closely, like seriously closely. We have to ask ourselves, if we don't feel good, we have to say, okay, what am I thinking? If we're not aware of our thoughts, but we can start intending. I intend to be aware of my thoughts.
Yeah, that's a good one. And I'm in the same type of situation with inner conversations with my toddler. He's a toddler, so he's wild, right? He doesn't want to listen. He wants what he wants when he wants it. All the things. Wants to watch TV. I'm like, no, not too much TV. But I do the same thing where I catch myself anticipating an argument or anticipating that he's going to be resistant. And I'm like, I gotta stop. So I'm working on finding that, like, no, this is always working smoothly. And just like imagining him being cooperative and supportive and go with the flow, easygoing. Sure. He distracts easily. That's probably better to say than my toddler is cooperative and always listens to what I say. Like, well, just flip it and say that he's distracted easily so he doesn't cause tantrums or make a big stink when he doesn't get his way.
Exactly. And one thing I love about this success story that I want to touch on is she said that it was an unconscious creation. And you know what? A lot of the times it is an unconscious creation, not an unconscious creation that it happened in your subconscious. You had no ability to change it. You did not do any. You had those thoughts, but you had them and you weren't aware of them. So many times we have thoughts that are just kind of float by that we don't even pay any attention to. Or we have, moments where we're in a mood and we rant about something, and those thoughts still create, even though the moment passes, we forget we even said anything about it. I've had times where, something's happened, like shown up in my reality. And then, somebody said, oh, you said that the other day. And I was like, did I? I'm like, oh, I don't remember that, but there it was, right? So it's about becoming aware of our thoughts. Now, every thought that we have consciously goes into our subconscious. So unconscious thoughts and unconscious thought patterns are only thoughts that we've continually had over and over and over and over again that we can maybe get triggered. Okay. So for instance, if somebody said, I can remember telling this story, my ex, he says, he used to say, he's like, you need to. And as soon as he would say that, it would trigger me. And I'd be like, right. That was an unconscious thought pattern, because that thought pattern that I had so many times was every time he says you need to, he would say something that was criticizing me that I would have to change. And then it would make me upset, because who is he to tell me to change? He ain't perfect either, blah, 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 right? And so that thought pattern had happened so many times and triggered me to be upset that it was actually an unconscious one. Same thing when you go to a dentist and you're in the waiting room and you hear the drill, automatically you get the feeling of anxiety. That's because it's an unconscious thought pattern. So you guys need to, sorry, I shouldn't say that. What we would to change those is you've got to start breaking them down. You've got to start intercepting them. You have to start asking yourself, why am I sitting here like anxiety ridden in the dentist, in the waiting room? Oh, because I don't like the drill. I think it hurts. Oh, but I only get that if I have a filling. Okay, great. So what's the solution? I intend to always have perfect teeth. I intend to never need fillings. Okay. So I actually did that. I've never had a filling in like years now. Like my teeth have been perfect. So we always want to go back, and if we can't figure out what thoughts we're having, we want to ask, where's that feeling coming from? Why do we have that feeling? And then break down the thought pattern that way. Right. But yeah, I mean, everything though we've created consciously, we just may not remember.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, that's true. We're just not aware of it because we're not paying attention.
Exactly. It's not like our subconscious mind made it up for us and it was like, there you go figure that out, right? No, that's not the way that this works, right?
Here's the conundrum, have fun.
Exactly. And I think the other big thing is, is focusing on what we want, so I mean, not all of this like is about, it's recreating people to have them in a relationship. It's maybe just recreating people's behaviors around you, right?
Yeah, that's true. I have a client who has, with her SP, there's an ex of the SPs, and she has a story that ex causes problems and, manipulates and is in the way interfering. And so with her too, we want to get to the end result of this ex being supportive of their relationship. And there's kids involved too. So we want the whole, happy family dynamic. Everyone's pleased and supporting one another. But for her to get from where she is now to thinking that way, we decided to start with, well, let's for now give her a new relationship to busy her with, send them on vacation for a couple of weeks while you work on your mental diet, to then recreate her as being supportive. And like she has an epiphany or something happens on vacation where she starts to change and shift. And so I think that's a really helpful way to do it too, is use it as a tool for now to get you to where you want to go.
That is so brilliant. I love that. And that's perfect. That's exactly it, right? I mean, let's talk about third parties for a minute. Sometimes they say with third parties, like, don't even think about them. Don't even think about it. Just go straight to the end. But part of the end is what does happen to that third party. Do you know what I mean? It's a loose end. So I've gotten rid of a third party before with one of my exes. And I outright said, what's going to happen is they're going to have a fight and they're going to break up because he wants to be with me. And that's the way it's going to be. And then I went over to his house that weekend and her stuff was still there, but it looked like she left in a rush. And I was like, what's going on? And he was like, oh, he's like, I had a girlfriend, but she's like left in a rush. We're over. She's going to come pick up her stuff next week. I was like, oh, okay. And then of course I kept intending, right? Like I obviously intended, that she would pick up her stuff. And then sure enough, by the next week, then I went to go see him. It was all gone. So her stuff. And it was like, never heard of her again. You know what I mean? And I intended he would tell me he'd never talk to her again. And he did. So, I mean, so, I mean, that's really where, we want to, we can take a look, is we can intend that we give that third party a story. Everybody's a character, right? If you're already thinking about them, it's not about just like, you've got to follow up every negative thought with at least 3 positive thoughts. You just have to, there's nothing wrong. Just because you think, okay, you know what, the third party and them, they're going to break up. It doesn't mean that you're giving them power and you're going to keep them together. Like, your thoughts are things. So you specifically saying, I intend for so-and-so to go get another relationship. You're actually creating that in that moment.
Yeah. Okay. And it's much more important what you're thinking about the third party than just thinking about the third party. If you're sitting there thinking, that person's with my person, that person's with my person, then that's not good. Don't do it that way. But if you're thinking that person's finding somebody else, they don't want my person anymore. Perfect. Think about that. Yeah. Exactly.
And I love it too. Apply it to those times where, you've got the ex with the kids, love that.
Yeah.
Love that.
Also, another one that came to my mind was if your person lives or works far away, or works in a place you don't like, or lives far away, and you don't yet have the belief that they'll move for you, then intend that they move for another reason, but they fall in love with you anyway. Or, like get path of least resistance, get them closer in the meantime, and then work on, they did that for me. They did that for me. Or if it's an issue with a long-term relationship, or maybe you're doubting, maybe they reflected back to you that they don't see a future with you for one reason or another. So intend that, well, okay, while I work on that for now, they're going to live in the moment and be really happy and satisfied and fulfilled in this relationship. And we're just going to keep going day by day with that while I work on, they do see a future with me. They are seeing a future with me. They do see that we can do this long term, and just let it be kind of the bridge leading you to what you want.
Exactly. Exactly. That is so brilliant. That is absolutely brilliant. That is
lots of things in this video.
Love it. You've just blown my socks off. You're the master of creating stories. Like, honestly, like, you know, like the fine. But you know what? It was funny because I was reading, you know, a book, right? And I was reading Joseph Murphy's The Power of the Subconscious Mind, right? Because I absolutely love this book. And one thing that it kind of, you know, it just reminds me of here is, you know, is one thing that you're really good at, and all of the coaches here are, is basically helping people to, you know, have a formula that's easy to follow, and you know, and gives them suggestions in times of need and emergency. Because one thing I'm going to be honest is, when we're going to create something and we've got this old story, when we try to break it, there's a lot of static. Okay? Like, you know, there's static, because we're actually physically changing your brain cell, like brain neurons, right? And you know, and having somebody to help you say, look, at, you know what, here's a really good story, you know what, run with this, and to find one that goes within the path of least resistance, like, absolutely brilliant. Like, you know, and then intend that your coach, you know, finds that story for you, gives you great stuff, right? Because your reality really is what you make it, you know. I think it honestly is. You know,
it's not anything yet until you decide what it's going to be. So
exactly. And we do that through our mental conversations.
Our harmonious, supportive mental conversation.
Exactly. Exactly. Then one other thing I just wanted to quickly touch on was self-concept, right? So self-concept is, you know, basically the answering the question, who am I? It's who you think you are in relation. So an example of self-concept would be, you know what, I'm an amazing girlfriend. Or another example is, relationships never work out for me, or relationships always work out for me. Okay, so that's what self-concept would be. So we want to change the concept of who the other person is and yourself as well, right?
Yeah, in relation to them, for sure.
Yeah, I know. I saw the words coming up a lot. Self-concept is everywhere these days. I don't know why. So
well, so I think it's like derived from self-love. It went from self-love to self-concept, because there's a lot more than just love involved.
I know, like, I know. I think, you know what, I like self-concept better than self-love. It's more rooted in, you know, psychology, and rather than self-love, because you're right, self-concept is more than self-love. Because I always said, you know what, I've never once sat in a corner and said, I love myself, I love myself. I've never actually said that. I've said I love myself in different ways. So in ways like, you know what, I deserve to be in a relationship. I'm good enough to be in a relationship. You know, so-and-so, well, let's just do it. Andrew wants to be with me. Andrew thinks I'm an amazing girlfriend. All of those statements are self, or you know, is self-love, you know, rather than I love myself. I've never once said that, ever. You know, but I've always created my concept of who I am in relation to the things around me that I want. And I think that's a really important distinction. So I'm happy that we're now using self-concept in our realities. I love it. It's way more, you know, it answers more the question, you know, do you love yourself, or do you know who you are? You know, find out who you are. Create who you are, right?
And I like how you said in relation to, because you can have a self-concept, like who you are, who I am as a mother, who I am as a partner, who I am with my relationship with money, my worth, things like that. There's so many different, so it's about looking at all those areas and finding the most positive self-concept in relation to all the things that you want in your life.
Exactly. So guys, to recap, you know what, change your, you know, your concept of other people, of yourself, you know, use the story to create, for your third parties. A lot of little tidbits in here, but you know what, I'm a little bit distracted because I want to say, is this good video quality or what?
We're all blown away.
You're welcome. thank you for intending, guys. For all you guys that actually positively intended, I totally appreciated that. Thank you, because you guys all created this, and we've got some powerful creators on our channel as subscribers, and I thank you all because
well done, well done.
And by the way, just for the record, the bad quality was probably because my laptop accidentally got thrown down a driveway. I dropped it, but like I say thrown because the driveway's like this and it did this cartwheel thing. So it looked like it was thrown, but it wasn't. So like there's dents in it. So I probably should have got a new laptop, but we figured it out now. So it's all good. So thank you guys so much for sticking with us. And
we appreciate you all so much.
Right. And thank you, Denise, for being with us and sharing some great information. Guys, if you are looking for some help with third parties, creating that story, getting an action plan to push through what you're going to push through, you know what, definitely check out the link in the description. Denise is available for coaching. Her clients get amazing success in all areas. We're constantly getting, you know, great feedback and success stories coming in. And yeah, well, thank you for guys for liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.